Hey crafters, it's me Jenny Riz with Quality Crafts, and we are making this rainbow card today. Here are some of the items you're going to need to make it, so pause the video if need be, and definitely pause the video here and write down everything that you need and the sizes, because I'm about to get started. Right now I'm just making sure that I have the correct piece to put in my window. So take your window piece, should be on the screen beforehand, and just trace it with a pencil and cut it out. You're going to notice here that I skipped right over the cutting out part because my big old fat head was in the video, and so I didn't want you to have to watch that. So if you don't know how to cut this out using your trimmer, just go ahead and use the scissors, follow your pencil lines, and just cut the window out. You won't need that piece after you cut it out, so it's no big deal if you have a big hole in there and you have it just removed. You can just throw that piece away. Alright, next piece I need is my sliding mechanism, so I'm looking to make sure I have that correct piece, and there it is. It's almost the same size. It's not quite as wide, not quite as tall. And we are going to start adding our rainbow pieces. Now make sure that you cut your rainbow pieces about 1/4 of an inch. A little bit smaller is probably better, and I'll explain why as the video goes along. And those little folds that I showed you just a second ago, make sure that you have those folded, all folded at about 1/4 of an inch at the same width, all of them together, because that's going to be really important for your card. Here I put the piece on the back, and I'm marking the top and the bottom so that I don't put my rainbow strips too far outside of that window. I'm putting a little bit of glue on the far left from the top to the bottom of those two markings that you can't really see that I made, to make sure that I put these on straight and I stay within the point of the window that I drew. So there's a light pencil mark on the top and the bottom here, and that's how I'm deciding where to put these. Also, make sure that they are very much together, otherwise you'll have gaps in your rainbow. So I learned a lot of these things the hard way putting this together. There's a die set you can get that's quite expensive that will put this all together for you, but I thought this was so simplistic that if you follow these step-by-step directions and stuff, you ought to be able to do pretty well on this. Now, once I get all of these put together, I'm going to make sure that they're really together and that there's no gaps and that they're all glued solidly on the left hand side and that they all match. They all match at the bend and they all match at the left hand side of that piece of paper. The more perfect you can be with this, the best your slider will turn out. Once you have them all glued on, you're going to put them to the far right hand side of your window, right on the edge there, and hold it there. Don't let it move. Now I'm just making sure that mine were long enough to reach the other side. You're going to put glue just on the other side of that window, but remember, keep your mechanism still on the right hand side while you do this. Glue them to the left hand side. They should be folding at that 1/4 of an inch on the right hand side that I told you about, so they all should have a fold mark, and they should all come together with no white gaps in between. Now you're going to notice that I put my red one just a little bit too high. So once I get to the bottom, I'm going to realize that my purple one has extra space, and I'm going to rearrange them to come down slightly. So make sure if you're using a wet glue, I like the wet glue because then you can lift up and move if you need to. And here you see me sliding them all down to make sure that they fit. Now, I already know, because I made the video, that my red one still is a little bit too wide. Hence my warning you to make sure that you don't make your strips any wider than 1/4 of an inch. Best if you make them slightly less than 1/4 of an inch. And then make sure that they're all lined up there and they're all glued securely. So that's what I'm doing here now. They're all glued down, they're lined up, no white gaps, and the piece on the right where I'm flipping never moved. So when I flip it over and it lands like that, everything should be perfectly flat. It should not be bumpy or anything like that. Now I'm just checking to see if it's going to work. Did I put everything on correctly? And once I get this settled the way it should be, I'm going to lift it up and you'll see a Z pattern. Watch for the Z pattern here. As I lift it up, I'm just making sure they're glued. See the Z? That's where you want to put your cut mark there. Now, if you want to put your little half circle here, your little pull chamber, whatever you want to call this part, you can do these ahead of time. I forgot. So here you're going to see me finagle my card. I'm going to get the back so that I can, and I'm checking to make sure I have it, darn sure I have it in the right place for that mechanism to work before I go any further. So I'm going to take, before I do that, I'm going to put on the piece that's going to keep the mechanism from falling apart. It's basically just the little mechanism keeper. I call it the bridge. You're going to put a little bit of glue on the top and the bottom only, so that that sticks to the back or the front of your card, and your slider, your mechanism, isn't being glued down. It's just a little bridge that the mechanism can go under and it slides through. So now I'm going to test it again. I'm like, okay, why is this not working? In the beginning, it might be a little bit stiff. Here's the point where I said, see, my red one is sticking, and I'm like, oh shoot. Well, I thought maybe I'll have to cut that down a little bit because it was a little more than 1/4 inch. So you're going to see me here finagling a little bit, wondering, maybe I have to cut it, grab a scissors. Then I realize, oh, there, I got it poked out, no problem. So once I play with it a little bit more, I should be able to get that up. So I pull and I realize it's still a little bit stuck, so I'm pulling it up. And the first time you do your mechanism too, you're going to want to stick your fingers in there and pull them to the right hand side a little bit. Make sure that they're making a really nice arc. And as I tip the card here, boom, perfect arc. Then play with a little bit more. Make sure that it becomes really easy to go in and out. If you need to stick a bone folder in the left hand side to make that pocket a little bit more open because it's sticking, you can go ahead and do that. Last piece, this is going to go on the back. Oh, now I'm jumping back to cut that second hole. Like I said, you could have done this in the beginning. Now I'm like wondering how I'm going to do that, but it turns out to be perfectly fine because the bottom of my punch is really relatively thin. So it was easy for me to get it underneath there, line it up, and chop that other piece. So the last thing I have to do is just glue that back piece on. Now watch as I put my finger where your glue is going to go, right around here, not on the top where the holder is. And you can put glue all across the bridge here because that can be glued down. It's covering the slider. So I'm going to go around the top, the bottom, and the back half on the left. Be very careful and very frugal with your glue here that you don't glue your mechanism together with your fold there. So just push the back on, following that little line of glue you made. And then of course you're going to want, I'm pushing on the bridge too to make sure it all stuck. Then try your mechanism again to make sure you didn't glue anything down. It's going to be a little bit stiff, maybe a little bit hard to use in the very beginning. Use it a few times, play with it before you send it out so that it runs smoothly when your recipient gets it. So last thing I have footage of here is I'm going to show you that I did a little pull of my own, since that card doesn't come out as far, of just some hearts. I'm going to color them red and glue them on as a pull. It ends up looking totally cute that way. And I apologize that I have no footage of adding on the handmade clouds I made and the little sentiment I did at the end, but you can decorate your card and do it any way you want. I also used a Spectrum Noir Sparkle Pen in Clear to go over my rainbow, so in the end you're going to notice that. It looks really pretty, and I think the sentiment I put on there is something like, don't let anyone dull your sparkle, or your sparkle something. Something about sparkle. You'll see it at the very end though. But I realized at that second right there in the video I should put the glue on the other back of the heart. Now if you don't have something that's parallel, that's the same on both sides, what do I want to say? Symmetrical. Make sure you're gluing the right sides together so you don't end up with a little wonky pull there. My hearts were symmetrical, so it ended up being just fine for me. So I'm going to play with it a couple more times, make sure that it's working, make sure my heart is on there exactly where I want it to be. And then I'm going to show you how it turned out at the end. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, enjoy making this without the use of an expensive die, and I cannot wait to see you guys next video.